Greetings, galactic comrades. It is I, Mario, Shambhala Mario, aka the Blu-ray Bodhisattva. As I am writing this, Venus has just entered Leo at 0 degrees, and she is opposing Pluto in Aquarius for the first time in over 200 years at 0 degrees. This is a very important occurrence to emphasize. For the last 16 years, Pluto has been in Capricorn, which means for the last 16 years, every time Venus has opposed Pluto, it happened on the Cancer-Capricorn axis. Now that Pluto has finally entered Aquarius for the first time in almost 250 years, when Venus opposes Pluto, it will be on the Leo-Aquarius axis. Venus opposes Pluto about once a year. Anytime a planet makes an aspect to Pluto, the planet of death and transformation, that planet goes through a purification process. Venus opposing Pluto brings a transformation of the heart and how we relate to partnerships in our lives. Venus is about relationships, money, beauty, value, and the heart. Venus opposing Pluto is an intense revelation that can bring conflict necessary for transformation around money, partnerships, and values of the heart. Venus and Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius will be taking place once a year for the next 18 years. Now, this is a slow progression of dissolving societal restrictions and conditioning that keep one from expressing and living true to one's heart's centered values and creativity. In other words, Pluto in Aquarius wants to bring death and transformation to the barriers that keep people in a cage from expressing their truths, paving the way for more of the world to let their freak flag fly, so to speak. This will be happening within all groups of society, like taboo topics such as the infiltrated aspects of the queer community to be more bolden in trying to normalize grooming children. On the polarity, this will also bring a greater transformation within the hearts of how communities come together to accomplish something good within society, such as the disclosure movement and people organizing with common core values to better build structures that free them from the corrupt government. For example, organized homeschooling that is in more alignment with spirit and the divine blueprint for humanity, and developing new ways in which communities share food and other goods. For example, I am connected to people who are paving the way in community gardening on a mass scale to grow all the food necessary to feed their county population. The idea is that every county should have land dedicated in growing food for its own population, thus eliminating excess resources in mass producing for a global scale and the cost of transporting your crack chlorella grown in the Himalayas. It will have the same quality grown in your valley. This is a wonderful thing that I'm very excited for. And more things like this will begin to grow and blossom all around the world in our country. Ultimately, Pluto in Aquarius is here to revolutionize our modern-day global society and help us upgrade and transform how we operate as a human race. And as a result, new technologies and systems are born through individuals literally downloading streams of cosmic consciousness that advance us as a world society. In this process, there will be a number of intense and catastrophic revelations that shock the world, but in the process brings illumination to darker and secret aspects of the governing powers. What I'm talking about here is the internet, and the dark web, and the sort of very dark and twisted things that you can find on the dark web coming to the surface and seeing justice. Pluto is all about revealing what is kept hidden from the world, and Aquarius is a genius sign that governs the internet. Pluto is all about revealing the darker, shadow, taboo aspects of human consciousness. So every year for the next 18 years, when Venus opposes Pluto on this Leo-Aquarius axis, it's a passage of allowing limiting societal etiquettes to shed layers off so that individuals are more free from inhibitions, thus removing masks that we all were wearing to save face and avoid offending others by simply being you in all your weirdness. Now, let's talk more about the extended Venus in Leo transit. Venus will be in Leo from June 5th to October 9th because of a 6-week retrograde from July 22nd to September 3rd. Venus will retrograde in Leo at 28 degrees and end her retrograde at 12 degrees Leo. In the very beginning of this transit, Venus will oppose Pluto, then square the nodes. Venus will repeat 3 squares to Jupiter in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus. Venus will repeat 3 trines to Chiron in Aries. During Venus's first trine to Chiron in Aries, the moon will create a kite formation, trining the sun in Cancer at 7 degrees and Saturn in Pisces at 7 degrees. Jupiter in Taurus at 8 degrees will be the opposition to the moon that carries the kite formation. What does all this mean? Overall, Venus represents the heart and money and sex and beauty and all things of value. When Venus is in Leo, our hearts are ignited to express more passionately and radiate from within. This 4 months Venus in Leo transit, with all her aspects, is a massive reset on how we creatively and more boldly express our desires and ideas. Venus and Mars will be traveling together in Leo within 3 to 4 degree orb together from one another for an extended period. This is realigning our desires and how we express to one another in business, partnerships, and communities. We don't want to gather in community with a bunch of insecure people who take everything way too personally and have no true sense of self-worth. This is messy, and in group settings creates space for a distorted projection onto one another. We want to gather with everyone confident and firm in their self-worth so we can collectively accomplish goals without the pettiness of everyone's insecure, fragile egos competing with one another. This is what the true objective of the universe has for us with these transits. And yes, there will be some messy and ugly things happening all over, but don't pay attention to the mentally wounded in the world or the sociopaths. I mean, pay attention, but what I mean is like, you need to focus your energy in what you want to create and find the people who are on the same frequency. A few things to watch for is overspending, impulse buying on items that are very expensive and very cool or flashy. For example, I suddenly have the urge to drop a few grand on a very special handmade serpent flute inlaid with 24 karat gold, moldavite, and other precious stones. It is truly an amazing item that is just an eye grabber and would be the center of attention of any and all gathering. And the sounds that it makes are divine. It is amazing. So this Venus in Leo transit, there are a lot of things that are going to be happening within this 4 months, especially in the very beginning. The very day Venus retrogrades on July 22nd at 28 degrees Leo will also be the day the sun moves into Leo. Like the very minute the sun goes into Leo, boom, Venus retrogrades in Leo. This is quite a significant indication as to how important and how focused the universe and this collective development is around our heart center and our values and our ego and our sense of self-worth. Because of this Venus transit beginning with the opposition to Pluto in Aquarius, part of what is going to be transformed and purified is the vanity and narcissism spectrum within the human nature and within human consciousness. On the Leo and Aquarius axis is also the vibration of narcissism and vanity. So there is going to be some sort of revelation within each individual as to where this frequency is existing, and likely existing in a super subtle way that you really didn't even know that you were operating from that frequency, which wherever it's laying within your mind, within your expression and insecurities. The repeating squares to Jupiter is, of course, going to be expanding the conflict of getting adjusted and more comfortable with what it is you really desire to create for yourself from your heart, and getting over the restricting inhibitions and fears and anxiety that you feel is placed upon you either through your partnerships or in the world and in your environment. And finally, coming out and doing things no matter what. And so Jupiter squaring this Venus really wants to expand that friction, so you can experience what it's like to really hold yourself in the face of, let's see, like the opposite of support. Does that make sense? The first Venus and Jupiter square will take place on June 11th at 5 degrees of Venus in Leo and Jupiter in Taurus. The second square will take place on August 22nd. Venus will be retrograde and Jupiter will be at 15 degrees Taurus. The third square to Jupiter will take place September 16th at 15 degrees Taurus and 15 degrees Leo, except on the last square, Jupiter will be retrograde. And then the Venus squares to Uranus are going to be shockwaves that the Venus square Uranus aspects that will happen on 3 separate accounts will create this sense of wanting to be very independent and original in the expression of your ideas and how you connect through social activities and in your relationships. The Venus and Uranus squares can bring about this exaggerated enthusiasm and excitement for new experiences, new stimuli, new information out there that inspires you to really tap into your own unique creative genius. And this could create a little bit of scatteredness in how you focus your energy, because it's so electrifying and exciting to the system, to the being. The first Uranus and Venus square is going to happen on July 1st, which coincidentally will also be the day of the superior conjunction, which the superior conjunction is when Mercury, after its retrograde, catches up to the sun and crosses over the sun in direct motion. So we're still in a Mercury shadow period. And when we have a superior conjunction, which is Mercury direct conjunct the sun, it is a moment of an epiphany. So Mercury represents the mind, the intellect, and how we process information as a journey in discovering what is true for us and developing attitudes and perspectives. And the sun is our consciousness, our conscious awareness. So this is bringing, all the information and the reevaluation and the reflection, that all the data that we've collected from this whole Mercury retrograde cycle, and coming forward with the epiphanies and revelations and the integration of all that we have gathered in the past 3 months during this, and past 3 weeks from this retrograde. Now, as Mercury meets with the sun, it illuminates it all into our conscious understanding, thus transporting it from the mind into the heart. So this is really interesting that the first Uranus-Venus square will take place during this superior conjunction, because this is really intended to get you excited. Because if you've been doing the work that you should be doing over the last decade in improving yourself and raising your consciousness and freeing yourself from the restrictions of this false, inverted, perverted Masonic construct, then what this is for is to get you excited and now seeing the journey of where you have been and what you have overcome, thus reaffirming the amazingness that you are, and gifting you with the understanding that you have a creative genius spark within you and a potential that is untapped. And now that you have seen that you are able to overcome and thrive, where do you want to take it next? Think bigger, dream bigger, desire bigger. So this is really interesting, and this is meant to really jumpstart us. This is meant to really jumpstart us onto a path of really seeing where we can go with ourselves, if you're not intimidated by what that means, actually making it happen. Because more so than some, most people actually come to regret when they finally accomplish what they've been desiring this whole time. So just be mindful of that. So the second square Venus and Uranus will be on August 10th. Venus will be retrograde. And then the third square would be September 29th. Venus will be direct and Uranus will then be retrograde. So another thing I want to point out during this Venus and Leo transit is that so I mentioned how Venus will retrograde July 22nd on the very first minute as the sun enters Leo. So on the very first minute as the sun enters Leo, there will also be the much long anticipated grand cardinal cross between Pluto, now digressing back into Capricorn at 29 degrees, and then the nodes switching from the Taurus Scorpio axis into the Aries Libra axis at 29 degrees. And so before the sun moves into Leo, the sun will be for a period of 24 hours in 29 degrees Cancer, thus completing this grand cardinal cross. So a lot is happening on this day, July 22nd. You want to mark this day in your calendars, July 22nd, and pay attention to everything that's happening now. Like, I'm going to be creating a whole Venus series of videos going more into detail of all these other aspects that I'm mentioning in this initial talk here. But right now, you really want to mark July 22nd in your calendar and start paying attention to where Venus is in your chart, where all these other planets are in your chart, as we are heading towards July 22nd. Because on July 22nd, Venus will retrograde at 28 degrees. And on the same day that Venus retrogrades, a lot is happening. This is a big, big day. There will be the grand cardinal cross. And then shortly after the climax of this grand cardinal cross, the sun enters Leo. And within the very first minute of the sun entering Leo, Venus retrogrades. So this is like suddenly going into a different portal of experiencing a brief and intense movie that takes place within your life right now. A movie where the objective of the story is by the end of the transit, by the end of the 4 months, is to change the course of your destiny by bringing destiny into your control, into your power, by transforming and removing the barriers and shackles around your heart, around your self-esteem, your self-worth, and how you creatively and boldly express the animation and the dramatization of who you are. So as I mentioned, I will be making a whole Venus series talk in these 4 months, because this is a lot. This Venus transit in Leo is very, very busy the whole time, even during its retrograde. And so this is a big theme for the rest of the year on where we're going collectively and what 2023 is meant to bring in for us. Because I believe that all of this extensive Venus in Leo work around the heart and partnerships and values and creative expression is happening. I see it as a preparation for the much anticipated Jupiter and Uranus conjunction, which will happen on April 25th, 2024. And it just so happens that when this conjunction occurs in 2024, the moon will be in Scorpio opposing the conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus, which I won't talk about too much now because that is further into the future, but I will keep bringing it up as a reminder as to where we're heading. Because yeah, anyways, so this is all I have for you guys right now. My sale is still continuing until June 22nd. So there's just a few weeks left of booking a reading with me on a discounted rate. So go ahead and jump on that. If you want to talk about this Venus and where Venus is going to be in your chart and where all these other aspects are going to be in your chart and get a transit forecast of the next 4 months with Venus and Leo and all the communications happening around that, please reach out and book a reading with me.